The 8th Vajra point. Emanated Apparition. It has been shown that phenomena are not different from each other in that they all resemble space. Now it will be shown that they are not identical. For sameness or oneness cannot be predicated of things that lack intrinsic being. It is consequently said that phenomena are not one and the same. They appear differently on the conventional level, and investigation establishes that they are not the same. They are like reflected images. It is said in the middle-length Prajna Paramita, O Subhuti, since phenomena are neither different nor the same, they are like emanations of the mind. Again, this will be explained in 3 sections, according to the ground, path, and result. The first explanation concerns the ground. Within the space-like sphere of primordial luminosity, apprehending thoughts, which are like clouds ever liable to appear, abruptly occur, and the appearance of samsara, non-existent yet clearly perceived, manifest like emanated apparitions. Within the core of primal luminosity, there occurs concomitantly the core of ignorance. From this, there spreads samsara's dualistic scheme of apprehender, apprehended. And here beings turn continually, as on a water wheel. What then are these various phenomenal appearances of samsara? Whatever appears and manifests to samsaric beings is the subjective experience, the self-experience of the ordinary mind, whatever manifests for the Buddhas is a self-experience of primordial wisdom. All that appears respectively to beings and to Buddhas is the self-experience of the ordinary mind and of primordial wisdom. Objects that appear outwardly to the mind, forms and so on, are simply the fructification of habitual tendencies accumulated from time without beginning. They do not exist either as the mind or as something else. They are like emanated apparitions. For if they were the mind, what kind of consciousness could they be? If they were the consciousness of the universal ground, it would be impossible for them to appear outwardly. The consciousness of the universal ground is exclusively inward turning. As it is said, mind is the consciousness of the universal ground. Ego clinging is, so to speak, the consciousness that is defiled. Although the five sense consciousnesses, sight and so forth, do indeed look outward, they arise only in the moment of the apprehension of objects. This being so, since mind and material objects occur simultaneously, the five sense consciousnesses are not the appearing objects. Outer objects are neither the mental consciousness nor the defiled consciousness, for they appear to the limpid sense powers possessed of form. Neither are they subdivisions of the 51 mental factors. It should be understood that form and the other objects of the five senses are not the mind. It is thanks to the recognition of the one ultimate expanse that the self-experience of primordial wisdom manifests. By contrast, when one fails to recognize it, the subjective perceptions of the deluded mind arise in the manner of emanated apparitions. An emanated apparition occurs without any basis, even in the absence of a material substance, such as a stick or stone. Hallucinatory appearances occur in the same way, arising simply through the conditioning of the defiled mind, which is itself devoid of true existence. They are groundless and rootless. An emanated apparition occurs according to the wish of those who have power over their minds. In just the same way, hallucinatory appearances manifest through the power of beings' habitual tendencies, and thus are equally unreal. Those who have gained complete control over their minds are able to display whatever emanated apparition they wish. Likewise, hallucinatory appearances manifest as the distinct results of causes and conditions, and they are thus devoid of true existence. Everything arises from a cause. That cause the Tathagata has explained. Just as an emanated apparition manifests in the manner of a hallucinatory appearance, in the same way, phenomena are the empty forms of adventitious and subjective mental experience. Form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form, and form is not other than emptiness. Likewise, feeling, perception, conditioning factors, and consciousness all are empty. In brief, all that appears as phenomena manifests as a subjective experience of one's own mind. More specifically, all such hallucinatory appearances manifest because of different ingrained habitual tendencies imprinted on the mind, They have no existence anywhere, whether within the mind or outside the mind. They are simply the clear appearance of what does not exist. Knowing that the hallucinatory appearances of samsara arise through the protracted habits of mental activity, practitioners do not indulge in thought, but remain in a nakedly pure and natural state. At that time, empty awareness remains within the ground without straying elsewhere. And just as when a vessel is broken, the space within it mingles inseparably with the space outside, when yogis realize the single, timeless nature of the three times, they reach the primordial, pristine state in which phenomena are exhausted. They dwell in the inner ultimate expanse of great primordial purity, understood as non-dual primordial wisdom. They dwell within the Dharmakaya, endowed with the twofold purity, and never stir from it. Just as water into water poured, as oil that mingles into oil. When the knowledge object, absence of conceptual constructs, blends inseparably with primordial wisdom, this is called the Dharmakaya of the Buddhas. Like salt dissolving into water, ordinary mind dissolves into the nature of the mind. Whatever arises in the mind should be left in its own open and natural condition. If the 5 poisonous mental states are closely examined, they cannot be pinpointed. They are not found anywhere, outside or in. If they are left alone, just as they are, like emanated apparitions, they subside. They are unable to endure on their own. This is the great secret of the mind. If one has no understanding of this, one may try to rid oneself of defilements, but they only increase, and one gets trapped in the web of things to eliminate and the remedies for them. Defilements are not in the object, nor within the faculties, nor somewhere in between. All those who fail to understand the secret of the mind, the greatest of all things, although they wish for joy and sorrow's end, will wander to no purpose, uselessly. Emanated apparitions derive from the miraculous ability of those who have mastery of concentration. Although there is no change in their nature, which is the creative power of awareness, they seem to occur in various forms. Similarly, although there is no change in the partless particles of which phenomena are composed, these same phenomena seem to occur in various ways with regard to size and so forth. Although phenomena are not different from the wood and so on, of which they are made, they seem to occur differently, according to the various ways in which they are fashioned. Likewise, although bodies and possessions are not substantially different from the elements of earth, water, fire and wind, they seem different because of the way in which they are fashioned. But if all appearing things, which are not different from the infinitesimal particles that are their respective components, are examined, they are found to dwell in the unchanging fundamental nature, and are without any existence whatsoever. For this reason, and given that phenomena manifest in various ways on account of causes and conditions, it should be understood that they are indeed mental emanations. All that arises in the mind is merely a reflected image. Moreover, whatever arises in the mind as something to be accepted or rejected is an appearance that is nevertheless devoid of intrinsic being. It is located neither in the object nor in the mind. Even though it seems to arise from both of them, there is neither something that arises, nor indeed is there an act of arising. One must therefore simply recognize that what eventuates is simply the spontaneous radiance of the ground of manifestation. The world, the outer universal vessel, formed as it is of the 5 elements, and all the mental states of beings, the inner content of that same universe, are all emanated apparitions, manifesting through the habitual tendencies imprinted upon the mind. And when analysed, the mind itself is simply the way that the arising of the creative power of awareness appears. The mind cannot be identified in any way. It should therefore be understood to be like space. O Kassapa, the mind is not seen in the outer world. It is not seen in the inner world, and it is not seen in between these two. When you look for the mind, it is nowhere to be found. It cannot be observed. For common folk who are like children and who have the common view of things, phenomena and thoughts have a hallucinatory quality. They are but the appearances of the ingrained habitual tendencies of the mind, which apprehends and clings to a self. Sense objects do not exist as such. They are the mind stirred by habitual tendencies. And this indeed appears as extramental things. The minds of ordinary beings belong to the relative, and whatever is posited as the object of the ordinary mind or intellect is also just the relative, in the same way that whatever is drawn on wall or canvas is not separate from those same supports. Now the relative, or all-concealing truth of childish people constitutes a blemish that hides the ultimate from view. The nature of phenomena, enshrouded by our ignorance, is all concealed. But what this ignorance contrives appears as true. And so the Buddha spoke of all-concealing truth. This is why everything that the mind reifies is but the fabric of thoughts, which consequently is something to be discarded. One should instead realize the space-like state that is free of all ontological extremes. A state that is beyond the ordinary mind, with its assertions of it is and it is not. Phenomena are just names, just words, just thoughts. And whatever is thought is not the ultimate. Suchness is devoid of thought. phenomena are ineffable and beyond all concepts. If they are investigated, they are found to have no existence whatever. Even though they are indicated by words, they are not specifically characterized objects. Other than the mere apprehension and distinguishing of their names, one does not actually encounter them. And the names in question are just like the name space and the expression rabbit's horns. Space, too, is only a name. For this reason, it is important to understand that in the very moment that phenomena are perceived, they are mere appearances, the rootless forms of primordial emptiness. It could be argued then that even the Buddha's Nirmanakaya is a hallucinatory appearance. However, since in his own perception he does not exist in any way, he is not a hallucination as far as he is concerned. On the other hand, when he appears to beings, he is indeed a hallucination, activated by the virtuous thoughts of those same beings. He is a positive hallucination, no more. Just as in the spotless floor of beryl, the image of the body of the Lord of Gods appears, likewise in the cleansed ground of the minds of beings, there arises the reflection of the powerful sage's form. It rises or it sets for each and every being, utterly dependent on their cleansed or sullied minds. Just as with the drumbeat of the gods, the sound of which arises in dependence on their acts, just so, within the world, the teaching of the peaceful sage arises in dependence upon being's conduct. However phenomena may be designated, whether as empty, true or false, and so on, they are in truth without existence. They transcend all the limits of the one-sided positions of philosophical systems, and should be understood in terms of a vast immensity beyond the ontological extremes. Do not say that they are empty. Do not say they are not empty. Empty or not empty. All the four alternatives. Where are they in the peaceful state? The Buddhas said, "I am." They taught as well that self does not exist. If one does not hold to the extreme of existence, then experientially everything becomes vague and elusive. If one does not hold to the extreme position of affirming the true existence of phenomena, however one may think of such phenomena, it goes no further than an understanding of the meaning of their names. For one has already established things as being empty and without true existence. It is pointless to quibble just on the level of words. Everything should be left just as it is. When one comes to realization, everything is that. None will understand that it is something else. On the other hand, if there is clinging or fixation to something, however high one's understanding may be, one has yet to realize the nature of phenomena. When one has a fixed idea such as, "This is emptiness," it is simply a figment of the discursive mind. It is not actual emptiness in itself, for one is fixating on a concept. Moreover, the discursive mind is samsara. For thoughts go ever on and on, in succession, driving one into the different realms of existence. On the other hand, when one is free of the discursive mind, one passes beyond suffering. Other than discursive thinking, there is nothing we might call samsara. When you freed yourself from thought, you passed beyond all pain forever. It is wrong to think that because they indicate emptiness, there is no harm in thoughts like, "It is empty." The intellectual evaluation of emptiness will by no means lead to the realization of emptiness. The nature of the mind, the ultimate truth that is the fundamental nature of all things. This nature utterly transcends all names and definitions. It is beyond all conception. Intellectual evaluation, by contrast, leads only to broad, rough estimates of objects hitherto unknown. It is like a blind person who comes to an idea of various objects only by means of a good explanation.